দর্শক শুভেচ্ছা নিন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আপনাদের সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি আমি কনক সারোয়ার আজকের আলোচনায়। দর্শক, আজকের আলোচনাটি একটি অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ আলোচনা। আমাদের সঙ্গে যিনি যোগ দিবেন সেই অতিথিদের জন্যই এই আলোচনাটি অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, এবং এই আলোচনাটি আমরা বাংলা এবং ইংরেজি দুই ভাষাতেই মিশ্রিতভাবে করব, কারণ আমাদের সঙ্গে যোগ দিচ্ছেন Ambassador William B. Mailam. Mr. Mailam, welcome to my special talk show today.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here.
Ambassador William B. Mailam, বাংলাদেশের বাংলাদেশে নিযুক্ত সাবেক মার্কিন রাষ্ট্রদূত। তিনি দীর্ঘদিন বাংলাদেশে কাজ করেছেন। তিনি সিনিয়র স্কলার ইনফর্ম সেন্টার এবং তিনি ওয়াশিংটন বেসড অধিকার সংগঠন রাইট টু ফ্রিডমের প্রেসিডেন্ট। আমাদের সঙ্গে আরেক অতিথি যোগ দিচ্ছেন জনাব মুশফিক ফজল আনসারি। তিনি জাস্ট নিউজ বিডির সম্পাদক এবং আমাদের জাতিসংঘ এবং হোয়াইট হাউসের প্রতিনিধি। আপনারা তার অনেক কাজ দেখেছেন। বাংলাদেশের বিভিন্ন বিষয় নিয়ে তিনি জাতিসংঘে প্রশ্ন করে ব্যাপক আলোচিত। মুশফিক, আপনাকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি।
ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে ড.কনক সারওয়ার and Ambassador Bill Mailam. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Yeah. Nice to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mailam, you are, whatever I know through your writings and discussions, that you have a clear concept about Bangladesh. You are following Bangladesh as well as South Asian politics and situation very closely. About Bangladesh politics and present situation, what is your observation and analysis?
Well, that's a very broad question. It's also a very good question, I guess. I'm looking at Bangladesh these days in a large context, even larger than South Asia, because Bangladesh has basically been a leader in an area which I would not want to be a leader in myself, and that is Bangladesh has led, although nobody seems to recognize this, authoritarianism. Excuse me.
No problem, sir.
Authoritarianism in, I think, because it's become one of a great many of states that have moved into the authoritarian category. Nobody seems to recognize that Bangladesh has been a good leader into the authoritarian category, because it seems to be out of the picture. There's also, and I came across this when I was at a conference at Italy, which is a big meeting place in the United Kingdom. This was 2 or 3 years ago now, more than that, probably about 4 years ago. And I predicted at the time that Bangladesh was heading towards a very authoritarian future. And everybody raised their hands and said, oh, no, that's not possible. Bangladesh has done so well. Well, it has done well in the economic side of things. Its growth has been very remarkable considering its beginning. It has done extremely well in economic policy, but when it comes to politics, Bangladesh has been going in the wrong direction now for a long time, I think, in Bangladesh. And I think it's particularly noticeable when it deals with people like you who are international journalists and are talking about the way Bangladesh is governed and the way it's repressing journalists, and in some cases very harshly. It's just one aspect of an authoritarian government, but it's a very important one. And we've seen it now, and I've been thinking about this since we talked the other day. We've had a brush with authoritarianism ourselves here in the United States, more than a brush. I mean, we were looking at the beginnings of what you would call an auto coup, or I think it's called in some auto gulp, which is a coup from the top. In other words, a leader who was elected democratically, maybe, or the leaders who were elected democratically turn their countries into an authoritarian country so that they can continue to be elected forever if necessary. So it's really when you think about it, a contradiction for Bangladesh in having done so well economically and so badly in political terms. But that's really where we are, I think, and I don't see any way around. I don't see any way out of it, really, because the tide towards authoritarianism is still running strong. And as I said, the U.S. just missed becoming an authoritarian state itself. Very, very close. But it's not over yet for the United States, because there will be more tries to bring us towards an authoritarian future.
A few political analysts actually now wanted to mention Bangladesh is not an authoritarian government. This is a fascism, because they stopped everything. They stopped. They control the judiciary. Our former Chief Justice, a few months before, he applied. He seek asylum in Canada.
I actually have met Justice Sinha. Mushfik and I had him speak to a group of people, and we can talk about that later. But let me interrupt you to say that fascism and authoritarianism are the same thing. So when I say authoritarianism, I'm talking about countries that might call themselves fascist, or might not want to call themselves fascist, but who are called fascist by people who know them, because it's all the same. Repression of the free press, the interference in voting so that the votes always come out for the leader, and a general repression that keeps people afraid of saying things, of saying anything against the government. I mean, it's always the same. If you look at Mussolini's Italy, or Hitler's Germany, or Hungary now, or Poland now, or some other, I won't go through the list of states, and Turkey, of course, is a big one too. These are countries who are, if they might not want to be called fascist, and they certainly don't call themselves fascist, but they are. And they are authoritarian, and they'll even admit they're authoritarian, and there's no difference.
Yeah, and sir, as you know, that recently Bangladesh government-controlled High Court ordered to suspend my YouTube channel and Facebook too, because of their criticism.
I know that story. Yes.
Yeah. So this is a very dangerous condition in Bangladesh. People cannot protest. People cannot say nothing. Everything is controlled by the government. Every sector, every point. So Bangladeshi people strongly believe that America will help to restoring democracy in Bangladesh. After the last parliament election, they believe America will support them to return back to democracy. But we have seen the Trump administration is more interested in business with Bangladesh. They want to sell arms to Bangladesh, but they are silent on human rights violation and the authoritarian rule of Sheikh Hasina. What is your opinion about this?
Well, I mean, I agree that the Trump administration had no interest in human rights, had no interest in democracy, really. And when I referred to the close brush we had with authoritarianism, I was referring to the show that we're still seeing a part of, which is Mr. Trump trying to take the election away from a duly elected leader named Joe Biden. And he made a valiant try, and his party was going to go along with that. But our institution stood up and said no. and even about some very important people in his party stood up and said no. So he didn't succeed. And on January the 20th, Joe Biden will be elected as president.